All right, guys, let's get started. Corey Michael Sanchez here. We are going to jumpstart this live coaching call. It's going to be fabulous. This is really all about how do you put together webinars that you can sell your products, your services from each and every day. This is how Mojo generates a lot of business for us. And in fact, it doesn't really matter what business you are, and this can work for anybody, right? And it's not like you have to sell your products directly on a webinar, but let me tell you what, this will free your life. It really will. It'll change your entire business. Doing webinars will, if anything, it raises credibility for you. And what'll happen is, even if you get a webinar in front of somebody, if you get in front of them on a one-on-one meeting, it'll increase your conversion so much higher. So right, we talk about you sending videos beforehand, which we do every single time we're going to meet with somebody. And in fact, we have learned how to fill our calendar up using webinars and videos in order to do that. And I'll show you something just real quick. And we talked about this in a past and previous training call. This is Ira's and our calendar every single week. This is actually in the September, but you can see we're stacked all day long, every day, with prospect meetings. The thing is that most people only have 10% revenue producing time, right? And 90% of your time is non-revenue producing. Well, Ira and I have figured out how to make it the opposite, how to make 90% of it revenue producing. And that's why we're sharing this information with you here today, because we want to make you guys ninjas. We want to help you guys sell more using the same tactics that we're using. What's cool about these coaching calls, you can't get this information anywhere. And we're only sharing it with you guys because you are clients of ours and because we want to see you have massive success. So when using the video system and webinars, it is a lethal combination. It is guaranteed to get you meetings and appointments. When we have appointments with people, we have a closing ratio up to 80%, and it's all through using webinars and all of that. So in a previous coaching call, which you can find all archived, I talk about how you can actually, the anatomy of setting up the marketing for a webinar. So how do you get people on a webinar? What systems do you use? How do you drive traffic to it? I've talked about that in a previous coaching call. And so I would encourage you to go check that one out, because this one's the add-on to that. This one is, how do you put together a webinar presentation, right? And this is really, really solid information. And this is really about the anatomy of the webinar itself. So you set up the webinar, you drove traffic to it, you're using the systems and video in order to get people on there. And in fact, what's interesting is that we have this down pat. I'll show you one really cool thing here too. We recently did a webinar. It was maxed out. The lines were maxed out, and we have a webinar this coming up. We had one video that we sent out about it. We have 75 registrants, and we actually, let me show you the registrants from the past webinar. We had it on Tuesday, and really what was so cool about this is that I only sent out 4 videos. It was all videos, video based. That's how we drove traffic to this webinar. It was one on Facebook, and you probably either on it or saw it. And look, this is how many people registered for it. 250 people, right, for a webinar that was there. And it was all on Facebook, but 250 people. We sent out 4 videos. That's it. And so it's really cool when you can drive this kind of traffic and you can do this. You can do this. Follow our formulas, follow our coaching calls. Go back to that one coaching call I showed you how to drive traffic and actually, put up get together your webinar. This webinar, we're actually talking about how do you now present it, okay? And this is important. So now you got people on your webinar, you got, massive people registered, right? And it didn't always start out like this, right? You're going to have to build up to this. You're going to start building a list. That's the power of the video systems that we coach you guys on, is because when you use them, you will start building a list, and actually a sizable list that you can do webinars to on a continuous basis to sell your stuff over and over and over again. And you can even do webinars with joint venture partners, and you can help sell their stuff, right? And that's another revenue stream for you. So now you have this together. Here's the first thing. I'm going to show you exactly what to say, how to do it. We're going to show you like the parts that you should have in your webinar, things that are really important that you should never, ever, ever leave out. The kind of like the process and the flow on how you should organize your webinar presentation. I gotta say, Ira and I have done hundreds and hundreds of live webinars. Okay, so we've mastered this. We've really done a great job. You most likely as a customer came off of a webinar, right? If you're a Mojo customer, most likely you purchased either on a webinar or after a webinar, and that was part of the sales funnel. So this stuff really works, obviously, because that's why you're a customer right now. So let me kind of get into it and show you exactly how to do this for yourself. So obviously the title today is How to Boost Your Sales by Up to 400% in Less Than 60 Days with Money Getting Webinar Tactics, how to generate a $10,000 payday every single day, how to get people drooling to get their hands on your stuff, the magic bullet video formula that gets you sales instantly every time. So let's dive right in. The basics. Hour-long webinars, right? You want to do an hour. Depending on your field, you might even want to do shorter, a half-hour webinar, depending on, and in fact, that's might be where you might want to start. Our webinar runs about an hour and 5 minutes, an hour and 10 minutes, right? But basically, you want to keep it to about an hour, sometimes a half hour, depending on your industry. You want to use PowerPoint to do this, or whatever you have for Macs. I know there's a different kind of program there. I use PowerPoint because I have a PC, and it's generally 1 minute per slide that you want to spend time on. So if you have about, it's a little more, it's probably more like a minute and a half, but if you got about 50, 60 slides, it's going to be an hour-long webinar, okay? So you just know that kind of rule going into it, and you don't want to have like a crazy amount of slides. And I'm going to show you kind of how you put this whole thing together. The important thing is really to have people take action. Now, there's really important triggers that you want people to take, really kind of, people react based on certain things, right? And you got to keep providing the benefits to the person, right? This webinar is not about you. It's not about your product. It's not even about your service. It's about the people on the webinar. It's about what you can do for them. It's about what your product or service can do for them. It's about seeing into the future. It's what Ira calls the product of the product, right? If you're selling weight loss formulas, then the product isn't that HCG shot or whatever it is. They have that new stuff going around. I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, it's not the pill. It's not the syringe with the weight loss formula in it. That's the product, but the product of the product is what you're selling. You are selling happiness. You are selling. You're selling the ability for them to feel good, for them to have self-confidence. And that's really what you want to hone in on when you're doing a webinar. And that was an example for weight loss. And by the way, if you guys have questions on this, make sure you put them in the chat box because I want to make sure I get to them. And okay, so one of the emotional triggers that people have is they want to save time or they want to get their time back, right? So they want to get back time. That's one of the big things that we really kind of push hard in our webinars. Why? Because number one, it'll help them make more money. That's another trigger, right? And here's the thing, going back to this time thing, a lot of times time is more important than money for people, right? People want to spend time with their family, they want to hang out, they want to, they want to go do the things they always want to do, they want to go on vacation more, they want the luxury of being able to choose what they want to do during that day. If they want to work, then they work. If they want to if they want to hang out with their family and be able to take time off and go to their son's bar mitzvah or, their communion, or if they want to go to their baseball games or whatever, that's really what your customers are looking for. So they're looking to save and get back time. They're looking to make more money, obviously, right? That's one of the big triggers that you want to hit on. And they want more freedom, financial freedom, physical freedom. People want fitness. That's another trigger. They want to be healthier, right? These are triggers that you really want to touch on, and these are the products of the products like we were talking about. So